welcome to this presentation about um, what we have learned during the subject for evaluation and testing. And I'm going to start talking about my learning in this part. I can ask the first question. Is testing a good or a bad thing? Well, I say language educators and not only are divided into two camps, the teachers and the testers, who meet in a battle. Teachers often say things like, let's learn to teach before we learn to test. We deal with people, you deal with statistics. So it is important to analyze this question and the possible answers. We find a very important difference here that is teachers and testers. So remember this term in order to continue. Is testing a good or a bad thing? Again, testers think that teachers tend to be as unspecific about their aims and objectives, are disinterested in finding out whether goals and objectives have been met. How did we analyze differences between the ideas of the teachers and testers and what they think about each other? But the most important is that test is necessary for any purpose of learning because we have to evaluate. So can we do without teaching or testing? That is the second question. And I say probably yes, because learning can occur in spite of teaching and or testing despite any kind of formal evaluation. The outcomes of teaching can be assessed without any form of testing. Testing may be used to measure what people already know. So when we are teaching, it is important to evaluate in order to see if they are learning something. So learning can occur in spite of teaching and or testing despite any kind of formal evaluation. Remember that. Is testing synonymous with the terms below? Evaluation. Evaluation may focus on the effectiveness or impact of a program of instruction, examination, or project. So it is important to analyze what is the difference here in testing and evaluation that is totally different. Students are usually not asked to evaluate what teachers carry out or take part in evaluation only in some contexts. Another important question here is assessment synonymous with testing? No, it is not. Assessment is a more encompassing term than testing. It is the process of gathering, interpreting, and sometimes recording and using information about students' responses to an educational task in order to provide the next learning step. Is assessment synonymous with testing? Assessment is primarily concerned with providing teachers or students with feedback information. In language teaching, it is a local or global procedure thought which one can appraise one or more aspects of language proficiency. Assessment is transparent when clear assessment criteria have been predetermined. Now, another question, is there one form of assessment? Of course, yes, there are different forms of assessment, including formative assessment, summative assessment, and self-assessment. Let's see what is formative assessment. Refers to observations which allow one to determine the degree to which students know or are able to perform a given task. It involves those activities which provide information used as feedback so that teaching may meet a student's needs. Summative assessment. It is usually carried out at the conclusion of a unit or units of instruction, activity, or plan in order to assess acquired knowledge and skills at a particular point in time. Other forms of assessment, less frequent but increasingly important forms, are self-assessment. It occurs when an appraisal instrument is self-administered for the specific purpose of providing performance feedback, diagnosis, and prescription recommendations rather than a pass-fail decision. Students engage in a systematic review of their progress and achievement, usually for the purpose of improvement. I have another question to analyze, and it's important. Does assessment include testing? Yes, it does. Testing is a particular kind of assessment which focuses on eliciting a specific sample of performance. The implication of this is that in designing a text, we construct a specific task that will elicit performance from which we can make the inferences we want to make about the characteristics of students, groups of individuals. Now, how do we test? There are different sorts of testing, including achievement testing, communicative testing, competence testing, diagnostic, integrative, performance testing, progress, proficiency, and psychometric testing. Okay, now, why else is testing important? Is the quality of tests important for teaching? Of course, yes, definitely. It is really important. If the test is a bad one, or the teacher is too narrow in his interpretation of it, the result may be negative washback, where we can say that teaching suffers because of the test coming at the end of the course. If the test is a good one and it's naturally well understood by the teacher, the effect on the teaching may be very positive. There will be positive backlash. Well, now, considerations when constructing a test. There are two basic considerations when constructing a test. It must be valid and reliable. The first concept first, validity is commonly defined as the extent to which a test measures what it is supposed to measure and nothing else. If a test is valid, the outsider who looks at an individual's score knows that it is a true reflection of the individual's skill in the area the test claims to have covered. As conclusion, I can say that language testing plays an important role in the teaching learning process, definitely. It helps language teachers to place students at their appropriate levels, to diagnose the students' strengths and weaknesses, and to evaluate their performance during and at the end of the course. Self-assessment plays a significant role in developing self-perceptions that lead to greater motivation. Students need to self-assess to know where they are learning, know when they are learning, how much effort they must expend for success, when they have been successful, and when they are on, and which learning strategies work well for them.